Step back into the golden days of British comedy, with Hi-de-Hi, the beloved sitcom that ran from 1980 to 1988 and captured hearts with its quirky Yellowcoats, chaotic holiday camps, and unforgettable laughs. But what happened to the cast after the credits rolled in 2025? Some stars are still dazzling on screen, others have quietly disappeared from the limelight, and a few took paths no one could have predicted, from stage triumphs to surprising new careers. Join us as we dig into the twists, turns, and hilarious life stories of Barry Gladys and the rest of the gang. Nostalgia, surprises, and a few jaw-dropping revelations await. Paul Shane was born George Frederick Speight on June 19, 1940, and played Ted Bovis in 1980 at age 40. Behind the slick smile and glib patter of Ted Bovis, the greasy, self-important holiday camp host, was a man whose life had been riddled with hardship secrets and misadventures that often mirrored the scheming energy of his character. Shane's childhood in working-class Thraburgh, Yorkshire, was marked by poverty, a volatile father, and a mother stretched to breaking, leaving him emotionally starved and the target of ridicule by relatives and neighbors alike for his weight awkwardness and quiet sensitivity. Early trauma instilled a lifelong habit of masking vulnerability with humor, which became both his shield and his tool in entertainment. His career began in the grimiest of clubs and pubs, performing as a singer and comedian for paltry wages, and only after a mining accident left him with double herniated discs did he pivot to television. Even after Hi-de-Hi elevated him to fame, Shane's life backstage was tumultuous. He was notorious for heavy drinking, unpredictable moods, and volatile clashes with producers and co-stars, earning him a reputation as both brilliant and impossible. Rumors swirled of manipulative tactics to secure better lines, and screen time and whispers of infidelity dogged him throughout his marriage to Dorothy Short, which, despite lasting until her death, endured long periods of estrangement and quiet acrimony. He also struggled to maintain meaningful connections with his children, often described as distant and preoccupied with maintaining appearances. Shane faced mounting health issues in later life, exacerbated by decades of alcohol consumption, poor diet, and the lingering effects of his mining injuries, and he ultimately died on May 16, 2013, at age 72 in a Rotherham hospice. His estate was modest, valued at $92,000, leaving a stark contrast between the public laughter he generated and the private struggles, regrets, and missed opportunities that haunted his later years, making Ted Bovis's comic sleaziness almost a reflection of the man himself. Diane Holland was born on February 28, 1930, and portrayed Yvonne Stewart Hargreaves in 1980 at age 50. Her character, the icy, impeccably poised ballroom dancer with a sharp tongue, became a living embodiment of fading pre-war elitism, often exuding disdain for everyone around her, while maintaining a rigid adherence to decorum, which simultaneously amused and unnerved audiences. Behind the theatrical poise, Diane's early life was marked by extreme hardship. Her father, a WWI veteran, returned home permanently scarred by mustard gas, leaving the family in dire financial straits, while her mother struggled to keep the household afloat. Diane and her sister, Gilda, were evacuated during WW1, experiencing emotional neglect, isolation, and the trauma of sudden displacement, forcing the young Diane to internalize her fears and grief, hiding vulnerability behind her precocious talent in dance. Her career was anything but smooth. Years of unglamorous stage roles, tours plagued with illness, and repeated clashes with producers for her insistence on perfection made her reputation as difficult well known in theatrical circles. Gossip suggested that she was fiercely territorial about her craft, sometimes sabotaging rival actresses' chances and creating tension in an otherwise collaborative environment. While she never faced a public scandal, whispers of secret relationships, potential same-sex romances, and a lifelong reclusive lifestyle surrounded her, feeding speculation about the woman behind the frost. She reportedly suffered from chronic arthritis, often hiding the pain with a limping grace during rehearsals while maintaining an ironclad persona of control. Diane never married, and despite her success, she often experienced loneliness, a shadowy personal life, and a sense of professional underappreciation that haunted her final years. She died quietly on January 24, 2009, in Godstone, Surrey, from bronchial pneumonia at age 78, leaving behind an estate valued around $400,000, primarily from property and residual royalties. Ruth Madoc was born Margaret Ruth Llewellyn Baker on April 16, 1943, and portrayed Gladys Pugh in 1980 at age 37. The prim, lovesick, and often tyrannical Yellowcoat she embodied was a beloved fixture of high-de-high, but off-screen Madoc's life was a labyrinth of emotional deprivation, personal turbulence, and career contradictions. Her early years were spent largely under the care of her Welsh grandmother, while her parents ran a poorly funded institution for the mentally ill, leaving her isolated, emotionally neglected, and subjected to ridicule and confusion that she would conceal behind a precocious wit and theatricality. Her ambition led her to RADA, but despite her talent, she often found herself in supporting roles, with her BAFTA-nominated performance in Hi-de-Hi simultaneously solidifying her public fame and entrenching her typecasting, fostering jealousy and friction among peers. On set, she was known for a sharp temper and exacting demands, sometimes bullying assistants and co-stars, earning a reputation as controlling and intensely competitive. Her first marriage, to actor Felix Bowness, ended acrimoniously amid rumors of infidelity, professional rivalry, and bitter personal clashes, while her second marriage to John Jackson was described as companionship rather than romantic passion. She struggled to maintain close bonds with her children, who reportedly experienced emotional distance from her and later endured multiple serious injuries that forced her to cancel performances and limited her mobility. Madoc faced recurring health crises but continued to work as long as possible, displaying determination alongside vulnerability. She died on December 9, 2022 at age 79 in Torquay, after complications from a fall, leaving an estate estimated between $5 and $10 million, a testament to her enduring success in British entertainment, yet shadowed by the loneliness pressure and unresolved emotional wounds from a life lived partly in the service of her art. Barry Howard was born on July 9, 1937, and took on the role of Barry Stewart Hargreaves in 1980 at age 43. His character, a flamboyant, somewhat fussy dance instructor, often served as comic relief, while simultaneously evoking subtle sympathy, portraying a man trapped between public perception and private vulnerability, a tension mirrored in Barry's real life. Born in Nottingham, his childhood was overshadowed by familial indifference toward his artistic ambitions, forcing him to work backstage for years to fund his own education and survival in the theatrical world. Off-camera, Barry's reputation for volatility and difficulty preceded him. He frequently clashed with directors, stormed out of rehearsals over creative disagreements, and refused roles he considered beneath him, making him a polarizing figure. Behind the curtain, rumors of secretive same-sex relationships, heavy drinking and gambling circulated, fueling both fascination and speculation among colleagues, though he kept these details mostly private. Post Hi-de-Hi, his career suffered from typecasting with casting agents, Pigeonholing him into effeminate roles, he resented creating ongoing professional frustration and a sense of entrapment that deeply affected him emotionally. Personal life turbulence was equally pronounced, estranged from much of his family, without a publicly acknowledged long-term partner and reportedly prone to bouts of depression. Barry wrestled privately with loneliness and a sense of unrealized potential. His health declined in later years, culminating in blood cancer that he battled quietly, dying on April 28, 2016 in Poole, Dorset, at age 78. His estate estimated at around $250,000 after medical costs consisted mainly of modest property and savings. Despite challenges, Barry's career left a lasting imprint on British television. His portrayal of Barry Stuart Hargreaves remains a blend of humor, pathos, and understated tragedy, reflecting a life marked by both artistic brilliance and the constant weight of private struggles, secrets and personal battles rarely witnessed by the public, rendering his legacy as one of complex human depth beyond the screen persona. Kenneth Connor was born on June 6, 1918, and portrayed Sammy Morris in Hi-de-Hi in 1986 at the age of 68. Sammy, a faded children's entertainer clinging to bygone glories, was both comical and tragic, a man whose bright past only highlighted the loneliness of his present, and Connor's interpretation drew audiences to both laugh and ache for him. Growing up in a modest Highbury home, Connor endured a childhood where parental expectations pressed hard, and any failure at school or performance drew humiliation. He learned early to hide pain behind a grin, a skill that later translated into comic timing, but also into a private vulnerability that few ever saw. Connor's career trajectory was similarly double-edged. While he became a household name in the Carry On series, his temper and manipulative tendencies were notorious among co-stars and directors, and whispers of alcohol dependency shadowed his later years. The most devastating professional blow came when a high-profile BBC comedy project quietly removed him from the lineup after complaints about volatile behavior, rumored drunken outbursts, and clashes over authority, leaving Connor humiliated, yet publicly dignified. His personal life mirrored this turbulence. His long marriage to Margaret Knox survived decades, but was marked by extended separations and emotional estrangement. His son, Jeremy, became estranged after disputes over inheritance and residuals from Connor's films, leaving a rift that never healed. Beyond the screen, Connor struggled with chronic illness, cancer in particular, but faced it privately, never allowing the public to witness his decline. Upon his death on November 28, 1993 in Harrow, London, aged 75, Connor left behind a mixed legacy of affection, controversy, and laughter. His estate, including royalties from Carry On Films and his Middlesex property, was valued at roughly $2 million, ensuring that while his personal life was fraught with pain, his professional contributions remained a lasting testament to British comedy. The paradox of Connor's life: public laughter masking private pain, professional brilliance overshadowed by personal failings, ensures that his story remains one of the most compelling bittersweet tales in entertainment history, where triumph and tragedy danced uncomfortably close. Simon Cadell was born on July 19, 1950, and played Geoffrey Fairbrother in 1980 at age 30. His character, the refined and morally upright camp manager, often balanced a quiet dignity against the show's chaotic humor, acting as both an anchor and a subtle provocateur, endearing him to viewers while highlighting the absurdity surrounding him. Simon's upbringing in a theatrical dynasty brought immense pressure and expectation. Constantly compared to accomplished relatives, he internalized a drive for perfection and developed a sharp awareness of professional vulnerability. From a young age, he coped with anxiety and emotional strain, which later manifested in health challenges exacerbated by heavy smoking, up to 80 cigarettes a day, and alcohol use. A near-fatal heart attack in 1993, followed by a lymphoma diagnosis during recovery from pneumonia, underscored a life constantly on the edge of crisis. Professionally, Simon faced repeated frustrations. He was passed over for major film roles due to a too-posh image, lost key parts after onstage or public incidents fueled by alcohol, and endured typecasting that belied his talent, creating a sense of personal and artistic dissatisfaction. His marriage to Rebecca Croft, daughter of Hi-de-Hi co-creator David Croft, was strained by illness, career pressures, and public scrutiny, with friends noting his bouts of depression and increasing isolation. Beyond the professional sphere, Simon experienced personal tragedies, the loss of family members, and lingering disappointment in personal ambitions and relationships, all contributing to a quietly tumultuous life. He died on March 6, 1996, in Westminster, London, at the age of 45, leaving 2 sons and an estate valued between $2 to $3 million, primarily from royalties, residuals, and voiceover work. His death, shortly before that, of close friend Jeremy Sinden, cast a shadow over the theatrical community. Simon's life and career reflect both exceptional talent and the fragility of human existence, a vivid reminder that even those who seem composed and dignified on screen often navigate unseen storms, leaving a legacy of grace, subtle rebellion, and enduring influence in British television history. Felix Bowness was born on March 30, 1922, and played Fred Quilly in 1980 at age 58. The curmudgeonly, sharp-tongued ex-jockey he portrayed on Hi-de-Hi masked a life filled with near-misses, trauma, and quiet resilience. Born into poverty in Harwell, Berkshire, Bowness endured a childhood of harsh discipline, scarcity, and violence, leading him to boxing both as an escape and a defense mechanism against bullies. His formative years were further marked by the trauma of World War II, during which he survived the D-Day landings after his landing craft was sunk. Awakening in a French convent, convinced he had died, an experience that haunted him and shaped his later introspective, sardonic humor. His acting career began late and unsteadily, often confined to warm-up acts, bit parts, and occasional theater roles, leaving him underpaid and overlooked, despite his talent. In 1979, a brief role in a soft porn film sparked backstage scandal, nearly costing him his role on Hi-de-Hi, and reinforcing his reputation as a man of contradictions, generous yet indulgent in gambling and alcohol, charming yet irascible. His marriage to Mavis Dungy endured 59 years, though friends described it as functional rather than romantic, and he reportedly felt persistent guilt over estranged family relationships. Diagnosed with dementia later in life, Bowness retreated from public life, spending his final years in quiet decline. He died on September 13, 2009, at age 87, in Woodley, Berkshire, leaving a modest estate that reflected decades of steady, if unglamorous, work. His life was a testament to survival through chaos, trauma, and missed opportunities, making the sardonic, weary Fred Quilly an almost autobiographical projection of the man himself, whose humor and resilience endured even when fortune and health did not. Jeffrey Holland was born on July 17, 1946, and took on the role of Spike Dixon in Hi-de-Hi in 1980 at the age of 34. Spike, the wide-eyed, eternally optimistic comic, whose slapstick antics and naive charm made him a fan favorite, embodied an innocence and cheer that masked a life of early trauma and professional struggle. Holland's childhood was abruptly altered when his father died suddenly when he was only 14, thrusting him into financial responsibility for his mother. and instilling a sense of anxiety and resilience that shaped both his character and his craft. His early acting career was riddled with rejection, typecasting, and the constant pressure to prove himself as directors often pigeonholed him into comic roles that limited his artistic range, fueling periods of profound insecurity. Personal relationships mirrored these challenges. His first marriage to Eleanor Hartop ended in divorce amid rumors of volatility and emotional strain, while his later marriage to actress Judy Buxton was reportedly tinged with friction over balancing personal life with relentless professional obligations. Holland's temperament on set could be prickly. While colleagues often admired his dedication and professionalism, some found him stubborn and difficult, particularly when scripts or productions did not meet his high standards. Perhaps the most notorious professional low point came decades later with the universally derided film Run for Your Wife, which subjected him to ridicule and reminded him of the precariousness of fame despite years of steady work. Nevertheless, Holland persisted, channeling personal disappointments into nuanced performances and continuing to tour extensively in theater, television, and comedy, cultivating a reputation for reliability and understated skill. At 79, he resides in London, maintaining a net worth of approximately $500,000 accumulated through royalties, stage work, and careful management of his career earnings. Roy Heather was born on May 20, 1935, and appeared as Inspector Palmer in Hida High in 1981 at age 46. Palmer was a minor but memorable figure, embodying bureaucratic rigidity and an almost comic menace. Yet Heather's real life was far more turbulent and secretive than the orderly world his character suggested. Born in Stoke Poges, Buckinghamshire, into poverty, Heather's childhood was marked by ridicule, insecurity, and intermittent hardship. Forced to work in an asbestos firm before discovering acting in his 40s, he brought a lifelong sense of inadequacy to every role he undertook. On set, Heather's reputed temper and abrasiveness earned him a reputation as combative with at least one notorious BBC ban, after a confrontation with a producer over minor script changes. The darkest professional scandal of his career occurred when he was dropped from a recurring role in The Bill, amid allegations of inappropriate comments toward a younger actress, a move that permanently tarnished his reputation in some circles. Heather's personal life was equally fractious. 3 marriages, 2 divorces, and estranged children, who reportedly avoided him later in life, painted a portrait of a man whose private relationships were as unstable as his public one was controlled. A public altercation with second-wife actress Sarah Vernon at a theater event made headlines, adding to a personal narrative of volatility and impulsivity. Heather passed away on September 3, 2014, in Pembroke, Hampshire, aged 79, of undisclosed causes. His estate, comprising memorabilia and a modest house, was valued at around $400,000, reflecting modest financial success, despite professional recognition. Heather's life illustrates the harsh reality behind late-found fame. A man achieving recognition late in life, but constantly shadowed by personal demons, professional mishaps, and relational failures, leaving behind a story as cautionary as it is compelling, a tale of talent, regret, and the unforgiving nature of both fame and human frailty. Euan Hooper was born on October 23, 1935, and played Alec Foster in Hida High in 1986, at the age of 51. Foster, the tyrannical camp controller, exuded an icy authority that turned staff into cogs and audiences into critics, and Hooper inhabited this persona with unnerving authenticity. Raised in Dundee, Scotland, Hooper endured a harsh upbringing dominated by neglect and a rigid household that often stifled emotional expression and creative exploration, leaving him with a simmering resentment that occasionally surfaced in adult relationships and professional interactions. Early acclaim in theatre, including founding the Greenwich Theatre and the Scottish Theatre Company, came with a price. Hooper's reputation for backstage feuds, calculated sabotage of rival productions, and leaked scripts made him both feared and avoided in professional circles. His most humiliating career moment occurred during a West End revival, where he was abruptly fired for unprofessional conduct, a euphemism for an infamous drunken tirade and inappropriate remarks toward colleagues, a story whispered through theater corridors for decades. Hooper's private life mirrored this volatility. His marriage to a fellow actress was riddled with infidelity, jealousy, and public spats, eventually ending in a quiet, tense separation. Friends and colleagues noted periods of intense isolation compounded by health challenges and growing paranoia in later years. When he died on April 6, 2023 in England at age 87, from heart disease complications, his estate was a modest 600th house derived largely from theatre royalties and a small property in Bath. Hooper's life was a study in contrasts, brilliant artistry intertwined with personal bitterness, ambition entangled with resentment, and a public persona that hid deep-seated insecurities and private failures. His story remains a cautionary tale of the high price of genius and the cost of unbridled ego in the unforgiving world of stage and screen, leaving a legacy that fascinates as much as it unsettles. John Le Mesurier was born on April 5, 1912, and portrayed Hugo Buxton in Hi-de-Hi in 1982 at the age of 70. Buxton, a stuffy, self-important academic visiting Maplins to recruit Jeff Fairbrother back to Cambridge, serves as a comic yet poignant foil, whose obsession with rules and propriety clashes spectacularly with the camp's chaotic energy, leaving viewers laughing while also sympathizing with his stubborn dignity. Le Mesurier's real life, however, was far from the genteel civility his on-screen persona suggested. Raised in a privileged but emotionally cold household, he endured constant ridicule at Sherborne School, where classmates mocked his slight build and diffident nature, leaving deep psychological scars that he buried beneath an easygoing, almost fragile charm. His entry into acting was as much a flight from familial suffocation as a pursuit of passion, and he navigated the theater world with caution and a reluctance to assert himself aggressively, often losing roles to more forceful personalities. In marriage, his life was equally complicated. His union with Hattie Jacques became infamous when her affair with a younger man unfolded publicly. Yet Le Mesurier endured it with a stoicism that baffled friends and colleagues alike. Privately, he struggled with depression and heavy drinking habits that dulled his sensitivity, but also masked profound loneliness. Professional humiliations peppered his career, from being dismissed for oversleeping during a repertory performance to seeing minor roles overshadowed by flashier co-stars, all of which he met with quiet endurance. Despite these challenges, he remained a prolific character actor, appearing in countless television dramas, comedies, and films, his understated craft admired by critics, even when not fully recognized by the public. In his later years, liver cirrhosis compounded his fragility, and he passed away on November 15, 1983, in Ramsgate, Kent, aged 71. His estate, modest at under $100,000, did little to reflect the cultural imprint he left behind. Yet his life and performances remain a testament to a man of understated brilliance, who navigated both personal and professional storms with wit, dignity, and a peculiar enduring charm that resonated with generations of viewers. Suzi Pollard was born on November 7, 1949, and played Peggy Ollerenshaw in Hi-de-Hi in 1980 at the age of 30. Peggy, the ever-hopeful, wide-eyed chalet maid whose ambition to become a Yellowcoat was as boundless as her cheer, became one of the emotional pillars of the series, yet Pollard's off-screen life was marked by far more volatility and intrigue than the innocence her character conveyed. Growing up in Nottingham, she endured emotional neglect and a chaotic domestic environment experiences that fostered a profound need for attention and approval, shaping her determination to succeed in the highly competitive entertainment world. Early in her career, she faced a string of humiliating near misses, including losing the talent show. Opportunity knocks to a performing dog, which could have easily crushed a less resilient performer. Fame, from high to high, brought both adoration and intense scrutiny, exacerbated by her tumultuous marriage to Peter Keogh, which ended in 1992 amid bitter disputes and accusations of emotional manipulation, painting a complex portrait of her personal vulnerabilities. Pollard developed a reputation for eccentricity and unpredictability, from her flamboyant, sometimes garish wardrobe choices to her confrontational or provocative interviews and rumored backstage conflicts, with co-stars earning both admiration and wariness from colleagues. Professionally, she experienced significant failures, including the short-lived ITV game show Take the Plunge, which collapsed due to poor ratings and production disorder, alongside instances of severe physical exhaustion that led to hospitalization during demanding pantomime tours. Despite these obstacles, she maintained a vibrant career across stage pantomime television and voice acting, amassing a net worth of approximately $1 million derived from long-running royalties, ongoing stage work, and media engagements. Pollard's life and career encapsulate a duality of dazzling public charm and private struggle. She is simultaneously resilient, ambitious, and eccentric, navigating the pressures of fame, professional setbacks, and personal turmoil with tenacity. David Griffin was born on July 19, 1943, in Richmond, Surrey, England, and portrayed squadron leader Clive Dempster, DFC, in 1984 at age 41. Clive, a distinguished war hero turned Maplin entertainer, embodied aristocratic charm and stoicism, often acting as a foil to the more exuberant characters while cultivating a discreet romance with Gladys Pugh that captivated audiences. Griffin's life behind the camera, however, was far less orderly. Born into a well-to-do but emotionally stifling household, he faced constant scrutiny over his posh accent and aloof demeanor which classmates and peers often ridiculed. His early career featured promising roles in Battle of Britain and Doctor Who, yet he was repeatedly overlooked or sidelined for being too stiff or elitist in the eyes of casting directors seeking more relatable performers. Griffin developed a reputation for being difficult to work with. His perfectionism often clashed with directors and fellow actors, causing him to be replaced or dropped from multiple productions, further fueling professional insecurity. The most severe blow to his career came during a high-profile lawsuit in the late 1990s over unpaid royalties from a touring stage show. Though he eventually won the case, the bitter legal battle left him disillusioned and cynical about the industry. His personal life was equally turbulent, married to French actress Veronique. The couple endured long separations and persistent rumors of infidelity, leading to strained relations with their two children, who reportedly distanced themselves from him. Griffin suffered a stroke in 2010, which forced him into semi-retirement, though he recovered and lived quietly in Sussex, avoiding the limelight. As of 2025, he is 82, maintaining a net worth of approximately $5 million, primarily from property investments and residuals from his television work, including keeping up appearances. Griffin's existence has been a delicate balancing act between public admiration and private struggle. a man whose suave, controlled, on-screen persona masked years of personal loss, professional disappointment, and a quietly raging battle with mortality. Yet his contribution to British television continues to command respect and intrigue. Linda Regan was born on November 5, 1949, in Brixton, London, England, and played April Wingate in 1984 at age 35. April, the effervescent and spirited Yellowcoat, brought energy, warmth, and a distinctive cheekiness to Maplin Holiday Camp, endearing herself to audiences despite often being embroiled in the camp's comedic chaos. Regan's real life, however, bore far greater complexity and turbulence than the light-hearted antics of her on-screen persona. Growing up in a struggling household, her father, a magician with inconsistent income, and her mother, a nurse, she experienced extreme financial hardship at times, to the point of her mother cutting her shoes to stretch the family's limited resources. This deprivation instilled resilience, but also a deep-seated anxiety around money and security, which shadowed her adult life. Early on, she pursued acting in comedies that highlighted sex appeal, such as Confessions of a Pop Performer roles, that brought her attention but also personal regret. Her life took a darker turn in 2005 when she was kidnapped at knife point, an event that traumatized her and later inspired her pivot to crime writing as both therapy and livelihood. Financially, she faced missteps, such as investing $5,000 in a chain of sex shops during the 1980s, which failed spectacularly, amplifying her wariness and resourcefulness in later years. Regan's marriage to actor Brian Murphy provided companionship, but was complicated by his deteriorating health and her own struggles with dyslexia and cancer, both of which she survived, but not without enduring significant emotional strain. Her relationships with her stepsons remained tense, adding another layer of isolation despite public recognition and success. Now 75, she lives in Kent, focusing on writing novels advocating for animal welfare and carefully managing a net worth of $1.8 million accumulated through property and book sales. Regan's life reflects a profound endurance, navigating poverty, trauma, health crises, financial loss, and familial friction. Yet she emerged with a voice of strength, persistence, and public engagement, embodying the paradox of a life filled with both charm and hardship, mirroring the on-screen vivacity that first made her a beloved figure to audiences. Nikki Kelly was born on November 23, 1951, in Leamington Spa, Warwickshire, England, and played Sylvia Garnsey in 1980 at age 29. Sylvia, the flirtatious Yellowcoat, who charmed both Geoffrey Fairbrother and Clive Dempster, became an instant fan favorite thanks to her mischievous charm and playful competitiveness, famously winning the 1959 Maplin Popularity Contest. Off-screen, Nikki's life was a tangled web of privilege pressure and scandal. As the great niece of Sir Johnston Forbes Robertson, she was born into a theatrical dynasty that demanded perfection, leaving her childhood marked by isolation and the constant weight of expectation. Emotionally neglected at times, Nikki developed an early fascination with attention and validation, which later fueled both her success and notoriety. Her early career began auspiciously, but quickly veered into controversy when she appeared in the risque film You're Driving Me Crazy, 1978, a decision that haunted her reputation for years and caused her to be typecast in roles emphasizing sex appeal over serious acting chops. Within the Heidi-High production, whispers circulated of her diva behavior, manipulation of co-stars, and backstage clashes during pantomime tours, yet her charisma remained undeniable. Her greatest career failure came with a West End revival she headlined, which collapsed spectacularly due to poor ticket sales, creative disputes, and backstage infighting an event that nearly derailed her professional reputation permanently. Personal life offered little solace. She never married, but was rumored to have been involved in a long-term toxic relationship with a married producer, stirring gossip columns and tabloids. Health issues in the 2000s prompted a retreat from public life, and though she survived these scares, the emotional and psychological toll left her reclusive for years. As of 2025, she lives quietly in Warwickshire. At 73, her net worth estimated at $1.2 million, largely amassed from property holdings and residual royalties. Thank you for joining us on this nostalgic journey through classic television history. If you enjoyed learning about the cast of Heidi High and where they are now, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe for more vintage Hollywood retrospectives and share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your memories and suggestions, so let us know which TV show or movie cast you'd like us to feature next.